Well, greetings to all you YouTubers and YouTubettes out there in YouTube land, and welcome to today's video extravaganza. Construction of the Art-Deco amp and speaker cabinet has rekindled my interest in the design and construction of external speakers, particularly from existing vintage audiovisual speaker cabinets. In this video, we'll use an ancient Victor audiovisual cabinet to create an external speaker and then test it. In addition, we'll completely renovate the Art-Deco speaker cabinet, add a brand new speaker, and then retest it. If this sounds interesting at all, then get comfortable, because here we go. You know, I'm really getting worried about Jack. So I'm headed toward the bathroom, but I came in here and I can't find him anywhere. Jack? Jack, are you in the bathroom? No, I guess not. Okay, let's take a look at this jewel out here in the sunlight. I swear if this doesn't put a lump in your lederhosen, I don't know what will. Look at that Victor Grille, cast aluminum. The cabinet is kind of a tweed or twill material with that mustache handle made famous by Gibson. Beautiful condition. The cabinet is absolutely solid. It's got the full back door. All the corner protectors are present. A little rusty, but present. Look at the condition of the tweed or whatever this material is. It's just about immaculate, other than a stain right over here, which I understand was when Keith Richards spilled his tequila at Altamont. Okay, so that's a famous stain. But anyway, that's the way this jewel looks out here in the sun. Now let's drag it into the sweltering workshop and see what lurks inside. Just as I was reaching for the handle, I remembered the white paint spots. You've got to have them. Any cabinet without them is highly suspect. Here it is on the workbench, looking even better than it did outside. Okay, I'm going to measure the speaker opening is what, around 10 inches, which makes you wonder about the speaker size, but then look over here. Here are the screws that hold the speaker, and they're every bit of 12-inch diameter. So we know it's a 12-inch speaker, we're just not sure what type. Also notice that while 3 of these inlet cuts are perpendicular to the speaker baffle, the bottom one is cut at quite an angle so that you could take a panel that had a matching bottom on it and fit it in here and then push it in to protect the speaker cone, I'm assuming, and then turn these clips down to hold it in place when you're transporting the speaker cabinet. I'm loving this old hardware. It's got a surface rust, but nothing pitting. It just looks ancient. It looks just exactly the way I feel some mornings when it's time to get up. The mustache handle's in really good shape, except right under the area where it pivots, which is fortunately hidden. But overall, this is the nicest mustache type handle I've ever seen. I'm never going to try to lift the amp with this handle, but I sure like looking at it. Okay, enough suspense. Let's open the back, see what we got. First off, some chalk writing, 25A. Oh wow, that means it's the most valuable of all Victor speaker cabinets. I'm just teasing. Okay, let's look inside. Well, Alnico with output transformer. Let me set the lid down and then we'll take a close look. Wow, look at that, a matching 25A. That means the back door does go to this cabinet. Otherwise, I'd have to throw it all in the dumpster. We got a whole bunch of speaker wire up here. Pull this out. That's pretty cute, huh? So you can roll it up fast. Let's look at the ends. Okay, this one is most unusual, and I think we'll see that it goes to the output transformer and speaker. And then this must have plugged into the projector or phonograph, and I guess you could have the phonograph or projector way at the back of the room and then run the speaker all the way up to the front with all that wire. There's the cover for the, that is a 1/4 inch jack too. That's sweet. Okay, now let's take a close look at the speaker and output transformer. This is kind of odd. There's a swatch of the material up here. I guess you can pull that out and go to your local upholstery store and say, I need 14 yards of that. The speaker cone appears to be just in perfect shape. It's one of those very early Alnico speakers with the like armor plating back here over the Alnico magnet. It's like 1/4 inch steel all around it. It's welded, soldered. It's like they were afraid somebody's going to come in the night and steal the magnet out of the speaker. Okay, but I'll tell you from my experience, and I think this is probably a Rolla speaker, is these are excellent speakers. As long as the magnet is intact and has a fairly strong field, I have a feeling this speaker is going to work and sound really well. But of course I did with that Heppner speaker also. But we'll wait and see, okay, on this. But I have higher expectations of this speaker. Okay, let's see how the output transformer is wired to it, just as you would expect. These two wires come up here to the voice coil, and then you remember that kind of odd looking plug that we had. Okay, it's going to fit into one of these polarized sockets. Okay, I'm not sure, I guess. Oh, look, this is a lovely bit of work. Apparently there was some other type of input that could be used. The output transformer is a good stout one, it looks like. Which might imply that this speaker was made to handle some wattage, okay, and not flub out at like 1.5 watts. Okay, now I think it's time to remove the speaker and remove this bracket and sockets and output transformer from the speaker, because if we do use this speaker, which is a long shot, but if we do, of course, we will not need the attached output transformer. This, though, could be used for a future scratch build and is probably a darn good output transformer. I had to laugh out loud when I saw this. We've all done it. They connected the wires to the jack without first sliding this down here on the wire so that it could be slid up and screwed on. And apparently after they got through, they saw this, oh no, well, it's way too much trouble to unwrap these two wires and put that on, so I think I'll just throw it in the case. Well, look, it could be worse. They could have just thrown it in the trash pail like most people do. But anyway, it's good to see human nature is alive and well. Okay, here's the output transformer, and it is a hefty beast. It's going to weigh well over a pound. Okay, that's a good stout output transformer. It should be very useful for a future build. Now here are the secondary wires that are going to go to the voice coil of the speaker, but there are some extra wires coming out here, and that puzzled me at first. Let's look back here. This is the customary 3 wires coming out the back, 2 for the plates of the output tubes, and the red one is probably the B+. Okay, but what about these 2? Well, if you look, they come up here to this, what looks sort of like a tube socket. Here's what I think it is. You can select different output impedances. If you plug it in here, say it's 4 ohm, here's 8, here's 16, and here God only knows. Okay, now I think that is just clever as can be. Okay, you could tell this is old, and they were probably just coming up with the idea of multiple impedances, and this is the way they enabled it. Okay, I've returned the bolts and nuts to their original position, and now I'm going to pack this jewel up complete and intact and put it in my storeroom for future use. Now let's take a look at the speaker. We have the platform here that was for the output transformer. I see no EIA identification. I'm going to guess this is probably from like early, maybe late 40s, something like that. Now my enthusiasm on the speaker might have been a little too optimistic. It looks like there are cracks here in the suspension that have been repaired in the past, and of course that's not a good sign. First, that there are cracks, and second, that they were repaired. The cone is stout, though. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to see how it sounds, how it works, but you really can't put a speaker like this, I don't think, into an enclosure for future use. Now we look down into the empty cabinet and we see that Victor casting, wow, it's heavy too. Good stout aluminum casting. Okay, it can pull right out, and that leaves us with a pretty darn empty cabinet. This really is a beautiful casting. The letters are all raised up. They're kind of in relief above the bracing here, except for the tail of the R. It comes down and it maintains its height all the way down to here. Very stylish. Now here's an interesting experiment in magnetic field strength. The tip of the screwdriver is being held by that Alnico magnet with such strength that it could hold 2 heavy cast iron C-clamps and a screwdriver just from the tip of the screwdriver. Now let's compare the magnetic field strength of the Alnico magnet in the Victor cabinet with the Alnico magnet in the Heppner speaker. I'll reach in here with the screwdriver, and it does weakly attract the screwdriver, but there's no way in heck that magnet could support the weight of like a quarter of this screwdriver. Okay, the magnetic field strength then is much, much lower here, and that's exactly why this speaker flubs around. This weak magnet cannot maintain control over the movement of the speaker cone. And that's probably why I've had such good results with these types of speaker, because the Alnico magnet I think is much larger and for some reason maintains its field strength and also can maintain control over that cone so that you get really good clear response even when you pump some watts into one of these jewels. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. The shop speaker that you've been listening to for the last 150 videos is one of these, believe it or not, and it works remarkably well. I just had to share this with you. I was rooting around in my paint vault and I found this wrinkle finish that's I must have had for at least 30 years. Okay, I pulled out the cap, shook it up, and guess what? It works just like the day it was new. Now, after all the problems I've had with Rust-Oleum, which I can't get to work for 30 minutes, let alone 30 years, this is a refreshing change of pace. Now, I sprayed a real heavy coat of the wrinkle paint on that Victor casting. I just don't think that a polished look would fit with that old weathered cabinet. So I'm going to stick with probably two-tone, maybe gold and black on this grill after it wrinkles up. Look at that nice wrinkle finish after about 30 minutes in the hot sun. Magnificent. I was checking through my speaker stash and came up with these two jewels. Both are 12-inch Webers. This is a 125A, this is a 125S. Now I understand the A is a tweed speaker replacement like for Jensen P12Q. It is an Alnico. This is an Alnico also, but I believe this one's a little warmer and more blackface oriented. I should also add that this is the 30-watt 4-ohm version, so I'll have to be sure to plug into the 4-ohm output jack on the Art-Deco amp when testing. Since the cabinet looks kind of tweedy to me, I'm thinking the A may get the nod. Okay, so I think I'll install this with that newly painted Grille and we'll see how it sounds. I dusted on a light layer of gold over that black wrinkle and it looks like $1,000,000, I think. Nice texture. It's not a bright glaring gold, but a nice kind of old antique gold look. I think it's going to work great in that tweed cabinet. Speaker jack has been installed on the side of the tweed cabinet, easily accessible, and has been wired up to the Weber speaker. Here's the Victor tweed cabinet with its antique gold grill. Now, I'm thinking this can be operated with the back door closed and open so you could have a variable resonance. The problem being that the back door is going to vibrate like the screen door in the Hurricane. So I'm going to put some felt around the edges so that that won't happen. Alright, I've put double layers of color coordinated felt above the hinges and below each clasp, and now the door will be under tension and will not be able to vibrate. Because the speaker is exposed here behind the Victor grille, you have to be sure there are no children or aardvarks or people running with scissors in close proximity. I think having a full hinged back door like this might be a great asset for this cabinet. You could have the door latch shut to seal the cabinet to see how that sounds, or you could open the back door various amounts or remove it altogether and check to see what suits the speaker and the environment the best. I recall that Brad, the guitologist, had a video several years ago in which he did exactly that, and the difference was very noticeable. So I think that would be kind of an interesting experiment with this speaker cabinet. With the Patreon pledges and PayPal donations, Jack is getting his shrimpy treats. You appreciate it, Jack? I want to say thanks to the folks out there in YouTube land. Oh, he's still looking for more treats. I'll say it then. Thank you all. Looks like Ollie is waiting for room service to deliver her breakfast. Ollie, are you about ready to eat? Okay. Jack, on the other hand, is nibbling on his morning catnip. This is his maintenance dose, which he's wolfing down. Now he'll probably bury what's left. Yep, he's trying. What a rascal. Well, the replacement for the Heppner speaker has arrived, and my joy was short-lived when I opened the box and saw to my horror that the packing job was just as shoddy as it could be. The inner box was allowed to rest directly against two sides and the bottom of the outer box, which pretty well eliminates any benefit to the padding or to having two boxes. I've had several speakers damaged because of this type of shipping method, because the speaker then will shift hard on impact against the outer edge here. There is no cushion, and the speaker basket will be bent. And the minute that happens, the voice coil can't track properly. So we're going to have to really check close when we look inside here to see if that has happened to this new speaker. And sure enough, as I open this up, the speaker is shielded from movement in those directions, but it is allowed to move left and right freely. And if you look down here, look at the deep dent that has been put into the box because of impact. Now, there's about a 50-50 chance that the basket has been damaged by that. I'm going to have to get it out and check it very carefully. Here's a close-up of that deep dent that was caused by the impact of the speaker. Fortunately, the box is double width. The outer box is not, but the inner box may have absorbed enough of that to save the speaker. We'll have to. Now, the way I test for flatness is I set the speaker down on a good flat surface and then push down hard about every inch and a half all the way around and see if there are any high or low spots. Okay, you'll be able to tell. You'll find an area like over here, if it's bent up, when you push down it'll have some give. Okay, I've done this, and thank God it seems to be totally flat. There's paint worn off in one area, but I believe it survived the trip. Now, with that nightmare behind us, let's celebrate the new speaker. It's a C12N Jensen 8 ohm. I decided I don't want any flubbing, and with a jewel like this that can handle 50 watts and where all it's ever going to see is about 18 or 20, I think I'm in pretty good shape. Okay, it's fairly heavy, but that is one beautiful cone, and I think there will be no problem at all for a magnet of this size to control it quite well. That said, let's install it in our Art-Deco speaker cabinet. Well, there's the mighty Jensen C12N happily nestled in the speaker cabinet. It's hooked up and ready to go. Lots of viewers have said that the gold looks nice on the Grille, but if this were polished and matte aluminum, it would probably go together better with the Art-Deco amp. So I happen to have a second Amcro Grille. I'm going to try to do that with this one. I'm going to try first media blasting and then maybe chemically removing the wrinkled paint, and then do a matte and polished aluminum Grille to see if that doesn't look better on the speaker cabinet. If it does, then the stripes on the side will be redone in silver to match. For those of you not familiar with media blasting, it's done in a large upright cabinet like this, connected to about a 90 to 100 psi air hose from a compressor. The object to be media blasted is placed inside on a grill. Then you put on these gloves from the outside and take that gun which blasts out tiny glass beads at extremely high velocity, and you aim it at the object. I hold the object with my left glove and hold the gun with the right, and then proceed to remove paint and rust and other things from the aluminum in this case. Now the challenge when trying to remove ancient baked-on enamel from aluminum is that the aluminum itself is relatively soft, and in your frenzy to try to remove the paint, you can actually damage the aluminum with the abrasive spray. Also, most of these castings have all sorts of flaws in them. Now the paint will conceal these flaws, but once you bead blast it and try to polish it, the flaws are going to really jump out at you. So that's sort of a chance you take. Now I've gone over this with some sandpaper to sort of smooth it out a little, and as you can see, there's still some little craters in the surface. And if I chase them, I'm going to make this real wavy. So we're just going to have to live with some imperfections. Fortunately, the majority of the ring here is in pretty good shape. I'm not going to blast the letters because they're already fairly well polished. Okay, now I'm going to try to use some chemicals to strip the paint from this part of the design, because I'm really worried I'd be rounding the edges if I use the abrasive spray on it. Now, after using some extra stout paint stripper and a small wire brush, we've got just about all the paint off. Now I'm going to rinse this with water and then bead blast it lightly to get all the residue off of it. Now the end result looks pretty darn good, but there's still lots of residue around on the edges, so we've got to remove all of that too. As my old granny used to say, any job worth doing is worth doing right. And that was shortly before I smothered her with a pillow. Now, after multiple applications of toxic paint stripper, bead blasting, working with dental picks, scanning electron microscopes, etc., it looks like we're now about to a good starting point for the polishing and finishing procedure. Can you see now why I went with a gold paint? Now that the aluminum has a uniform, sort of a light, dull gray finish with no big scratches, it's time to start using the buffing wheels. This is the polishing unit right here. I bought this years ago to work on jukeboxes, and it's paid for itself 100 times over. A very powerful motor that spins with tremendous torque, so you really have to hold on to the parts or these wheels will just take them away from you and sling them off through the wall sometimes. This is a sisal wheel. Now you coat that wheel with buffing compound like this. It is actually an abrasive, and it cuts down through the aluminum to a layer that is fairly smooth and shiny. Then you do the finish polishing over here. It's a hot, miserable, dirty, dangerous job. So let's get started. Okay, here is the grill after about 30 or 40 minutes on the buffing wheel. It still has to be cleaned, but I think you can see some difference in the polished areas compared to the unpolished. Okay, here's the grill all polished and cleaned. To be honest, I'm not completely thrilled with the amount of contrast between the polished and satin aluminum, but I think there might be a good solution for that. Well, here's the finished grill. Okay, I outlined all of the letters in black, then masked off all the polished area and sprayed the matte area with the dark blue metallic. Here's the grill out in the sun, just sparkly as can be. You can see the metal flake in the blue areas. I really think this is going to relate better to that Art-Deco amp than the gold grill did. Let's put it in place and see. Here's the speaker cabinet with the polished aluminum grill in place. I've just set it down on top of the gold grill, and I really think it looks nice. Now, of course, the unpleasant task of having to change the stripes to silver. Here are the two grills side by side. I think that the polished Grille is more eye-catching and all, but I really thought that the gold Grille looked fine in the cabinet, but it just didn't go with the amplifier quite as much as I wanted it to, and I think this Grille will. Well, here's change number 9,856. After hours of thought, I decided that the Ampro lettering and the bars at the center look wonderful polished, but that the rim didn't. Okay, it was just too bright. It didn't really relate to the silver stripes, so I did a brushed aluminum finish that will match the Art-Deco amp embellishments, and I think will look a whole lot better. Here's a different angle on that brushed aluminum rim. I think it just looks richer and it relates better to the amp that it goes with. And then on the rear of the Grille, because buzzing and vibrating are a terrible problem with speaker cabinets, I put pads of felt evenly spaced between the screw holes to prevent this portion of the Grille from vibrating against the surface of the cabinet. I'm also putting a thin layer of felt in every joint between the rear panels and the cabinet to cut down on the possibility of any sort of vibration. Well, here's a finished view of the amp and speaker side by side. You can see that the brushed aluminum here, I think, goes very nicely with the brushed aluminum on the face of the amp, and of course the blue color of the Grille. I think the polished Ampro letters go well with the shininess of the amp itself. Now let's see how they look stacked up. Now, so that the amp can sit on top of the speaker cabinet and be above the handle, I made some metal spacers here for the rubber feet, which are in keeping with the metal on the front of the amp, and this then will allow them to be stacked. Well, here they are in all their stacked glory. I think you'll have to agree they do go together a whole lot better now than they did before. Also, with the extended feet on the amplifier, now its floor easily clears the handle of the cabinet. I hope you like it. So here's the cabinet, and as a final touch, I painted and striped the back door so that it will match the rest of the cabinet. And now you can have a sealed back cabinet if you want one, or simply unlatch at the top and open the back as much as you want, or remove it completely, giving you a whole lot of versatility. Well, I guess that's about it for this speaker cabinet extravaganza. I think the conclusions we can draw are that the new Jensen speaker makes a big difference in the amp roll cabinet, and I hope you approve of the redo that I did to make it match the Art-Deco amp a little better. Secondly, I think the Victor made a really nice speaker cabinet. I've still got some buzzes and rattles in it that I'm going to have to work out. But for not a whole lot of work, it's really a very attractive and effective cabinet. I would like to announce the winner of the Patron raffle for the Stage Right amp. The winner is Ed Wegert, W-E-G-E-R-T. And once he contacts me with shipping information, the amp will be on its way to him. Jack and I would also like to extend our thanks to all the other Patreon patrons and PayPal contributors which have kept us on the air and in boutique catnip for another month. If you'd like to join them in supporting this advertising-free channel, please see the links in the video description. Now let's get out of this hot workshop and go back to the car show for some neat old cars, some distractions, and then a quick trip up to Hatch, New Mexico. Well, here we have the setup for the guy who thought he had everything. A beautiful straight 1956 Chevy two-door post, 5-spoke mags, towing an absolutely gorgeous Harley-Davidson flathead, probably from the late 40s. I can't tell if it's a 74 cubic inch or 45 cubic inch model. Got nice Springer front end, straight pipes that you know the neighbors love, and the perfect car to tow it. Let's see, let's get a close-up of the engine here. Normally there's a distributor right there, right between the barrels. God, look, Springer seat and Springer front end. Looks like it's strapped on tight. Now the left side, jockey shift, the old-fashioned bell-shaped air cleaner. Not a whole lot of lights and accessories on this one. Looks and sounds like the GTX is about ready to make its escape, along with the gold truck we saw the last car show. It doesn't sound like a Slant 6, does it? I have a feeling it's not. How about this 57 Corvette? I think we may have seen this one before. But once again, who cares? Something this gorgeous needs to be seen twice. Ugh, absolutely beautiful. Look at that. Original hubcaps, wide white walls. Glass. One of those Cobra replicas. Being very stealthy. I'm sure all the traffic police's ears perked up when they started that show. You don't see many Cobras, a pair traveling together, even though they're replicas. I'm up in Hatch, New Mexico at a real famous barbecue restaurant called Sparky's, and this is parked out across the street. The Memphis Police. I thought this was pretty rich. And dirt cheap. $2,500, if you can see for the glare. But look at this interior. Look at this. It's like riding a coffin. But it's all there. Look at that. Oh, does it smell like an old car? Pretty snazzy. Looks like somebody had an accident over there on the seat. Better than having one in the car. Well, there you go. Here's the engine on that 56 Dodge. I don't know much about 56 Dodge engines, if that's what, like a 318 or looks like a pretty good sized V8. Nice clean engine compartment. Great looking front end. Body straight as an arrow. Needs some window glass and probably a better interior, although not absolutely necessary. Some nicer wheels. This is odd. I don't know if they put in a Continental kit or what, but it's been cut out at the back. Well, I'm going to have to look up some pictures of these and see how they originally looked. But anyway, for $2,500, looked to me like a pretty good deal. Wouldn't be a good video without a distraction. And that's one of the better ones I've seen.